Okay, this morning, for the next hour, we're going to talk about Chapter 16, Basic Residential Construction. As a licensee, new construction, some of your clients, buyers, are going to want to go out and preview some new construction, possibly buy it. And they're going to see some of these houses, and when you walk into some of these being built, there's going to be different stages of construction. You'll see some, for example, putting the foundations in. You'll see some in the framing process. You'll see some putting roofs on. You might see some where all that framing is done. They're on the interior, doing interior work. You as a licensee could be asked many questions. So you need a basic knowledge of new construction. Again, you're not a contractor, you're not a builder, but you should have the ability to answer some basic questions if they ask. Remembering things that you say you can be held accountable for. So you got to be careful what you say. If you don't know, you need to find out if they ask you a question, but don't just say something because you want to say it. Okay? In this chapter, once you have read the chapter, we got finished discussing this chapter, the learning objectives, you should be able to recognize the basic architectural types and styles of residential construction that we have here in North Carolina. Identify the basic components of a house foundation and the frame. Describe the basic elements of a residential construction, the very basic elements, and that's broken down in your books. We're going to see here in a few minutes. Explain the basic provisions of the North Carolina Uniform Residential Building Code, HUD standards, and North Carolina General Contractor License. Now, the basic provisions of the North Carolina Residential Building Code. We have a code here in North Carolina we build houses by. Now, be aware of that code's different in different parts of the state, like how they build in the mountains versus how they build on the coast. You have different codes for that. These codes can change annually, and sometimes they do. They're constantly upgraded and changed. Please remember, when a house is built in 2000, and it's built by code in 2000, 2016, they're building them differently. Does that mean that these are bad now? And we have to go back and change every year and fix it? No, it does not mean that. But the point I want to make sure you understand is the code does change constantly, and it gets better. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the way the ones that were built in 2000, for example, versus 2016. Okay, you as a licensee should possess elementary knowledge of a basic house construction. Now in your book, if you flip the page over a couple times, you'll see a drawing. Keep going. Right? One more. There you go. What page is that?
382.
318?
382.
382. There's a picture of a house in a framing status showing all this different nomenclature. Now, you're not required to memorize all that, but you need to be familiar with it. Now, back up here, construction principles, techniques, and terminology will assist you. Understanding the definition, again, of certain words will help you. When someone asks you, for example, well, what kind of foundation do we have? Is that on slab, crawl space, what is it? Well, you need to be able to answer that question, and you need to know what the difference in those two are, and which we're going to talk about. You must be prepared to handle basic questions and give truthful information. Misrepresentation of material facts is cause for disciplinary action by the Commission. Material facts. So we got to be familiar with what it is we're talking about. If we have a question asked of us and we don't know it, we need to find out the answer for them. I have had buyers out there and looking at construction in different stages. And I've always, when I had noticed we want to go out there, I have called the builder up or his representative and let him know we're coming out and I'm bringing buyers out. Is it possible that the builder could meet us and give the buyer a tour and explain some of their information about their product to them? In most cases, you'll find they'll do that because they want to sell their house. And they will be glad to do that. And when the buyer asks those questions, the builder is going to respond to them.
That's when you are lucky.
And it gives you a chance now, as the builder explains that to the buyer, it gives you a chance to gather more knowledge about the product. Make sense? So it's something to think about. That's what I've done. It's up to you. We have different types and styles that we use. A ranch style.
My favorite.
Offer easy accessibility, maintenance, is most expensive to build. It's most expensive to build. Now, why do you think that is?
Because it takes the most. Well, if you have two-story house, you don't have to. I don't know how to explain, but. Just
Okay.
take more
What you're saying is that,
property.
okay, the one story takes up a lot of space, a lot of foundation,
Yes.
takes up a lot of wood, a lot of space, big roof. Two-story, narrow down half that, smaller foundation,
Smaller roof.
and we put another story on top of the other one. We got a smaller roof, only one roof, but we got two stories.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to build, yes. The two-story offers twice the living area for the cost of one foundation and one roof. A split level. The split level takes advantage of uneven terrain. Now around here in Oswego County, we don't have that. But around Raleigh, somewhere up northern parts of the state, you'll see what we call rolling terrain. We're down here at the coast, we're kind of flat. So they can actually take, let's say this was a road out here. They could build a house and use this as space. Actually use the uneven terrain to build a house on. Here. But again, here at the coast, we don't have that. I don't know if that's a luxury or a negative. We don't have it.
I used to live in
You used to live in split level? I'm assuming that's up north somewhere.
It was in Florida.
Florida, okay. Well, that's unusual in Florida. The ranch style houses that we build here mostly, we have what's called a water table. And it's nothing to go in your backyard here in this county. Say you want to put a privacy fence in, and you got a post hole and you're digging a hole, you know, to put the pole in the ground. It's nothing to go down 2 or 3 or maybe 4 feet at the most, and we got water. And it will actually fill the hole up with water. It's kind of hard to build a house with a basement when you go down 10 feet, and what's going to happen is all this water is going to come in. So it's not practical for us here to have basements. So it's very rare around here you'll see a house with a basement. But we have a couple here and there. It's on a higher terrain, the water table is not up so high with it. Contemporary style houses. It's combined elements of all three of them put together. And then we have different types, with Spanish style, Cape Cod, Georgian, etc. There's all kinds of, there's a particular taste what the builder has to offer. So, here in this area, we have the ranch style and a 2-story. And then we have a split level, which again, in parts of North Carolina, they do use this a lot. Now the foundation. Basic components of a foundation. This is a very important area of the house. It is the footprint of the building. I remember, it's the lowest part of construction. That's a good thing to remember. Footings are the footprint of the building. Excuse me, it's the lowest part of the construction. Now, I'm going to give you an example of what I mean up here for this footing. I'm going to give you two views. Here's looking down from the sky. Malvina, look at here. Don't look at you, look up here. Looking down from the sky, here is what that may look like. Now, looking at it sideways, on one side, and what they're doing is that when they dig this out, so many feet, and again, it depends on the code, how deep we dig depends on the freeze line, where it's going to freeze. But they dig down, and then they will fill this up with concrete and steel.
Is it the same name of cement?
Concrete, cement, yes, same thing. They will fill that partially up to where they want it, where the code requires them to do. This is the lowest point of the construction. You agree with that? This is the foundation. Now that will run all the way through here. This is what's actually the weight of the house is going to be sitting on.
So it's not going to fly away.
No, hopefully it does not fly away. The foundation walls rest on top of the footings. Now, if you look over here again, once we have this in, then there's going to be concrete block put in to elevate this up to whatever height it's going to be. And again, you have this length now through here. And this is going to be blocked on top of each other. Depends on what height they're going to go up. It could be anywhere from a foot to 2 or 3 feet, depends on the terrain. And then once they get that concrete block in there, then they're going to backfill all this with fill sand. It's a nice smooth surface. We have concrete in the ground. We have concrete block all the way around in a rectangular shape in this example. And we're going to backfill all this with fill sand. And then they're going to, we call a slab now, they're going to pour concrete across it. To even out. This concrete block may come up to here, for example. This is the height. Then they're going to backfill this with fill sand. And then they will put 4 to 6 inches of concrete on top of that. Fill sand, believe it or not, can hold a lot of weight. I have seen them backfill with fill sand and put water on it. It rains on it a few times. Then they do a compression test. They actually will come up and do a compression test on that to see how much weight it will hold before it starts falling apart. And you would be amazed at the amount of pressure that fill sand can hold. Go to the beach. Drive on the beach. So some beaches you can drive on cars that weigh 2 or 3 tons. Cruise right along there, have no problem. But yet you can still reach down with your hand and dig it up. It's amazing how much pressure it can hold. Okay, where it said that the footprint, it's the footprint of the building, it's the lowest part of the construction, that's the footing. The foundation walls now rest on top of the footings and provide a surface for which the flooring is built, as I mentioned over here. I showed you the foundation walls, the concrete block. We backfilled it, and we put concrete in there to provide a surface Now we can start building. Now, piers or columns may be required to support foundation walls. And let me give you an example of that. Here's our drawing again. And we're going to use this same drawing over here. If the house is going to be built on a crawl space, where we're not on that fill sand, we're not all filled in with concrete, packed down. We want the house up off the ground. If we have that, we may have, let's rough guess, say a 45-foot span from here to here. Of course, we have our footings down here also. It's the side view of it. We have all the block and all that in there. That's left over, you can see. That's a big span to put a piece of wood across. Would you agree? Piece of wood sitting up across, that's a long way across. So what we need to do sometimes, and they will require that, depends on what they're building, where they have like a concrete, these are like little footers again. Then they're going to build a concrete block pier. This is a pier. Same height, same height, same height, same height, same height. Where it will sit down on there and give it extra support. Does that make sense? Okay. Piers, columns may be required to support the foundation walls. Now we have major types of foundations. Crawl space. And we'll talk about that one first. Again, let's talk about crawl space. Here's your foundation wall. There are piers in here.
You can get under it.
The house now is going to be built up here. We have this space underneath the house. It's called a crawl space. Height of that varies. 3.5 feet, 4 feet, who knows, depends on the terrain. When they're built on a crawl space, you'll find out that your heating and air conditioning venting systems are in the floor. Your plumbing under the house. Electrical's coming in under the house and going up.
That's why you need to have access to it.
I'm sorry?
You need to have the access to it.
An access, yes, you gotta have access to it.
That's why it's called scrolling.
I think.
But a lot of people, they don't want the slab, which we'll talk about in just a second. They want a crawl space. Most, not all your 2 stories now. Most, but again, not all of them are built on a crawl space. We mentioned some houses have a basement. We don't have that around here, so where it's cut out, you have a basement down there. But a concrete slab now, let's talk about that concrete slab. That first drawing I showed you was a concrete slab. Again, you have the footers, foundation, we now have the backfill of sand. And then we have 4 to 6 inches of concrete. This is your ground level here. This is where your grass, all that stuff will be. The house will start being built on top of the slab. Okay? No room for underground heating and air conditioning vents No plumb, the actual plumbing runs from room to room. You won't see all that, will you? You would have your venting system, your heating and air conditioning system up in here, in the attic. So, major types, we have crawl space, we have some of the basement, there's very few around here, and we have the concrete slab. In the foundation, we have termite protection. When a builder builds a new home, once they actually cut in their foundation, and normally before they pour the concrete, they will bring a termite company in, and the termite company will treat the soil where this house is going to be. And they're treating that soil for subterranean termites. That liquid soaks into the ground. And believe it or not, normally that treatment will last for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
30 years, that's a long time. But think about it. They treat the soil. They now have a house built on top of that. The elements, rain and stuff over here, that soak through the ground, dilute everything, under that house is protected. So that chemical can last a lot longer than it would be out here where the elements can filter it out. But anyway, the builder will treat the soil. Now, once he builds the house, they will also put, if it's a crawl space house, you have this, under the house, you have this exposed dirt, right? So they actually will put a moisture barrier in there, made of plastic. They put it down. As the elements of the change, the humidity, North Carolina, we have a lot of that changing around here. You can be hot under your attic, under in your crawl space, or it could be cool or cold. It changes. That weather change can cause evaporation, moisture, to soak up out of the ground. So they put this moisture barrier down where that moisture tries to come out of the ground, it can't get out there. It's got to go away. It cannot go up through and soak into your wood, the moisture. It's called a moisture barrier.
What about the trail house?
Trail house.
Trailers?
Trailers, yeah.
Okay, you're talking about mobile homes?
Yeah, that one.
Mobile homes, they're on wheels. Mobile home is not considered real estate. It has a title to it. It's like an automobile. You can
Yeah.
hook up to it and take off.
I know, but I was just wondering if they have this too, like,
Now, if you have a mobile home
yeah.
that was a mobile home, or you have a double wide that's put on a permanent foundation, once it goes on that permanent foundation, the same process will start as far as the foundation, the requirements for the codes, the termite treatment, all that, because it's going to be real estate now. Now, once the house is built, and we have, as I mentioned, this moisture barrier in there, a buyer comes along and buys the house. He's in the house for 3 or 4 years. Now he wants to sell the house. During his 3 or 4 years he's staying there, that termite company that came out and treated that soil also offers a wood destroying insect report called a WDI 100. And every year, for a fee, they come out annually, usually on they try to do it around the birthday of the day you bought the house, a year later. They send you in the mail to let them know they'll come out and do that. They will come out and they will treat and inspect. Well, first of all, they will inspect and treat, if needed, your property. If you do that and you pay them, if there's ever termites that do show up while you're under a termite contract and there's damage done, that company will take care of that damage. If you do not have a current termite contract, which is again WDIR, Wood Destroying Insect Report, if it's not current, then that responsibility of the termites and the repair rests on you. Here in North Carolina, we have a lot of termites. This is haven for them here. So it's highly recommended to our buyers to keep that termite contract current every year. Because if they do not keep it current, and it comes time for them to sell, the termite company does not just come out and inspect real quick and charge them an annual fee and up we go again. No. They're going to have to go back in there and start all over again. And the cost for that treatment can range from anywhere I've seen from $500 to $1,000. It's best. There used to be a commercial out years ago on oil filters that said, pay me a little now or pay me a whole lot later, because we're talking about change the oil filter or else get a new motor. Same way the termite. Pay me a little now, annually, keep it current, or pay me a whole lot later. Wood destroying insect report, WDIR 100. It's going to be a required item on most all properties that's sold where the lending institution is involved. There's going to be a loan. They're going to want to make sure that their investment is clear of termites, and there's a current termite contract on it. Cash offers, that's up to the buyer, what he wants to do. But again, you as a buyer's agent or a licensee should recommend to all of them to make sure that's done and they take care of it annually. It's very important. All right, pressure treated wood. In your construction phase of the house, first of all, we have pine, and we also have pine that's pressure treated. Pressure treated is where the wood is actually submerged into a solvent. It actually soaks for many days in this liquid. They take it out and they dry it. This treatment will stop moisture for many, many years from actually being soaked into that wood. Termites do not like it because it's nasty. They don't like pressure treated wood. And again, it repels moisture better than pine. Come on, what's a pine tree do? It's out there growing. How do you think a pine tree grows? It soaks up moisture from the ground and grows. That's what makes it grow, moisture. So pine loves to suck up moisture. Well, in building our house, once we cut the root system off, it's not soaking up any more moisture. It's going to eventually start rotting if it's out in the elements. So we don't want the pine to be around moisture once we sever it out of the ground. So termites, they love to get in that pine. They love pine. North Carolina's full of pine. So we have the pressure treatment system to stop some of that. Well, the first and the piece of wood to touch the ground on new construction, anything that touches the ground is pressure treated. The lowest part of the construction touching that ground is pressure treated wood. Then from there, they will start using pine. Does that make sense? I'd remember that. A piece of the wood, it's lowest down to the ground, touching that ground, is pressure treated. When you go out to look at some new construction, and you guys could do it. You're out one weekend, you're driving home in your neighborhood, look at a house being built.
I have like 10 of them.
Look at them.
Right.
Drive by, look for that pressure treated piece of wood. You'll see it
Yeah.
in there. You'll see all these things. So, we talked about termite protection, wood destroying insect report known as a WDIR 100. We talked about the requirements of why we should do that, our recommendation to our clients. We also talked about in new construction, basic construction, you as a licensee need to be aware of the lowest piece is pressure treated, and it prevents fast decay and eliminates possibly or delays for many, many years termites. Now that the foundation's down, we got the lowest part going to be pressure treated. And that floor framing, that lowest horizontal wooden part is called the sill. And on that drawing you looked on page 382, you will see an arrow pointing to that sill of that piece of wood. I would remember that the sill is the lowest horizontal wooden part, lowest part. Now what's the lowest part of construction?
Foundation.
What was the lowest part? Foundation?
Foundation. Or the beam,
Footings.
footings, the sand.
Lowest part of the construction. The sill is the lowest horizontal wooden part. Now, once the sill's down, floor joists are going to be attached to the sills, 16 to 24 inch intervals, depending on what they're building. What's the matter?
Footings. Footing, the lowest part.
Footing, it's right here. Look here, we're looking right up your head. Footings, lowest part of the construction. Now, the sill is the lowest horizontal wooden part. Floor joists attached to the sills 16 or 24 inches apart. And let me show you what these floor joists look like. Here's a side view. We talked about the piers earlier for support. Floor joists. Let's use a 2 by 12. A 2 by 12. What do you think that means in wood size? Tim?
And one side,
In wood size. What's that mean, 2 by 12? Okay. 2 inches thick, 12 inches long.
yeah,
2 inches thick, I'm sorry, not 12 inches long, 12 feet. 2 inches thick, 12 feet long. If this was a 36-inch span, let's say it was 36 inch, now look up here. In goes our 2 by 12. To the center. Next one. So that's a little bit long. Floor joist. If the floor joist was, if it was, a 36-foot piece. Look up here again. Again, this is 2 by 36. It's 2 inches thick, that's the thickness of it. And it's 36 feet, 6 feet long. Thickness, length. Floor joist. Attached to the sills, as we talked about, we had that piece of wood. Might as well show it to you right now, for you won't be confused. Here's an aerial view looking down at the house. We got our footers in. That pressure treated normally, what's that mean?
2 by 6.
What's it mean?
2 inches and 6 foot long.
2 inches, 6 feet long. If that could be 12. We're going to look down here, and what we're going to see all the way around is that sill laying on that foundation wall. And that piece of wood is pressure treated, correct?
Mhm.
Could be a 2x4, could be a 2x6, depends on what they're building.
But the first one is always the inches and the second one is always.
Feet. Yeah. Now, with that piece of wood down, there's the thickness of it. Floor joist now sits on it, on the sill. Right there. Floor joist attaches to the sill. Whoa. Make sense? Girders rest on top of the piers. In your book, I want to put it page 382. You'll see a picture of your girder attaching to your pier. Where all your nomenclature is. Every word we talk about, you're going to see it on page 382. And it's going to tell you where it is. And it points an arrow right to it. Do you need to memorize all these? No, but you need to be familiar with them. And understand some of the key points that we're talking about. Subfloor. Sheets of plywood or pressboard lay on top of the joists and girders. Now look up here, I'm going to show you what that looks like. Here we are. Here's all our floor joists. 16 to 24 inches apart, depends on what we're building, correct? Now they're going to bring in sheets of plywood, pressboard, sheathing, and they're going to start laying them down. Now you have a flat, smooth floor. Make sense? Subflooring. This could be sheets of plywood, pressboard, and they lay on top of the floor joists and the girders. When you put those down, that's a 4 by 8 foot sheet. They put like what they call liquid nails, it's a glue like, on the actual joist. And they will attach that down. Some will use screws. Some of the builders that build custom. And some will use nail guns to attach them down. The wall framing. Now we're starting to head up the walls now. And no, Tim, that's not you. It's not called Tims, the wood that go up and down. They're called studs. They go up and down. I'll show you a picture of those over here. Let's look at a side view. Subflooring's down now. These are all going to be 2 by 4s or 2 by 6s. Heading up. There's your wall. What's that?
The house is kind of leaning to the side.
Yeah, well, I'm not an architect here. Give you some idea what it means. But that's your walls. It's a vertical lumber spaced about 16 inches apart. Now the sole and the top plates are connections. Sole plate connects down here on the bottom. And then you have one on the top for the top connection. And again, you'll see it right there on your chart. Headers.
I don't see the studs.
I'm sorry?
I don't see the studs.
You don't see the studs?
45.
45?
See here.
It's a lot.
That's,
But we'll come back to it. We'll find it in just a second. It's on there. I'll help you out in just a minute. Headers. Let's talk about the headers.
15.
Did you find it?
Walls not, oh, I was just looking for.
Two pieces connected, adding extra support to wall framing. Now I need to show you what a header is. This is important. We all know in a wall, look up here again, we want to put a window in here.
Yeah.
So we're going to do some cutting out. Put a window in. So what they do, they will take, let's say 2x8s, and they'll cut that 2x8 to fit. They'll take two of those, put them together, so it looks like this, and they'll nail them together. So now really you got a 4x8 or whatever the distance is. They'll take that and they will put it up here. Two before, two before, two before, two before, to give it extra support. You have this weight coming down, needs to be supported, so they put all this header in here to support that weight. They will do that everywhere there's a break in that framing. You're going to put a window, you're going to put a door, anywhere you're going to put something in there, we have to have a header.
Even if you want to have the open house, like the kitchen and that the dining room and living room.
Well, we're on exterior walls right now.
Oh, okay.
But you're right, the philosophy is the same on the inside.
I watch too much of the
Well, interior walls will be the same way. But we're talking about exterior walls, but interior would be the same thing. You have to have the headers on any opening. But it's a good question. Now, the roof framing. We have ceiling joist. Attaches to that top plate, which I just showed you a while ago, of the wall and carry the weight of the roof. Or joist. Now we're up here. Top plate. Now we're going to start putting floor joists across like we did down here before the flooring. We had these floor joists. Now we're going to start putting them up here. It's going to carry the weight of that roof. Called ceiling joists. Attach the top plate of the wall and carry the weight of the roof. Rafters. They connect to the ceiling joist and the ridge boards. And if you look, the ridge boards is the highest point or part of the construction. You see that? Well, I make a little note of that also. Just like we did the lowest, there's the highest. Ridge boards, highest part of construction. Now, what we're seeing here is normally, not all cases, but normally a house that's being custom built, board by board, it's going up. Most of your builders who build subdivisions, they do not build like that. That's custom built, takes a lot more time and a lot more skill to do that. Obviously, when you incorporate those two items, it means more cost. You agree? So, what they've done, they come up with a roof truss system. They can actually, it's an alternative way of having ceiling joists and rafters. We now can call in and they will order, the builder will, and give them dimensions to have these prefabricated truss systems built. They actually build them in a factory. You've probably seen them on a truck sometimes, you don't realize what it is you see. They're really crazy looking shaped things hanging over the side of a truck going down the highway. Those are truss systems. When they use a truss system, we don't need to worry about putting ceiling joists, rafters, or ridge boards in because this truss system has them all incorporated, built together. And they come out with a crane and they actually lift them up and they set them on there one at a time, all the way across. It's easier and quicker to install. Roof truss system. It eliminates us, the builder, building ceiling joists, rafters, and ridge boards. It's a much easier process and it's quicker to install. Eaves is the overhang of the roof, where it overhangs from the house. Look up here again. If this was your house, built, here's your roof. This is the overhang, right here. This is the eave. Just see it on your chart there also on 382. Number 24. Eaves. That eave now consists of soffit, freeze board, and fascia board. When you go home tonight, do you have gutters on your house?
What's that?
When the rain catches in the gutter and water comes down?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Look at your gutter tonight when you go home. Your gutters are going to be attached to what we call fascia board. You actually see what that board looks like. That's called fascia board.
I need to write that down.
Eaves, overhang of the roof, made up of the soffit, freeze board, and fascia. Now, some more elements of construction. Exterior walls. Sheathing is added to the wall framing to insulate. We have all those 2x4s up as I drew a while ago. We have our headers in for the windows and doors. We have our roof on. Now they're going to start putting in sheathing. It could be made of particle board. It could be made of foam or plywood. And a lot of you may have seen some of that being put up on the side of a house being built. You'll see words like Trivec, company that makes it. Kind of looks like an advertisement board, what it looks like. And they will have those, this whole side of the house will have these sheets on there. Put on. And then they will take a wrap. It's a type of paper, and they wrap the whole house. Where it eliminates seeing this. When you wrap it, it just looks solid. When we're done wrapping that thing, all you see is this, white. But behind it is all those sheets of plywood or whatever it is they put up. Windows and exterior doors. We have different types. Some windows, we have sliding windows, swinging windows, or hinged windows. You know, it depends on the buyer's preference or what the builder puts in.
It's gonna be always question about the French doors.
And everybody likes the French doors. We have flush doors, panel doors, sliding doors, French doors. Give me a picture of I think everybody here knows what a slider is, a sliding door. But a panel door looks like this. Again, you have a doorknob and you have panels in it. I have 2-panel, 4-panel, 6-panel, different types of doors. Depends on the individual taste. Some major components of a window and door framework. Major components. We have a jamb, a header, the sill. When we're talking about construction now, jamb is the side, the header is the top of the framing of that particular window or door. The sill is the bottom of that particular framing part, in this case, window or door. Sill is always the bottom. Now, this is good to remember one here. Good to remember. And a window, the glass panel that moves, is the sash. Now, I'm going to show you a picture of a window, and I'm going to come back to this, where you can see what I'm talking about. Here is a window, right here. And we've all seen this. Look familiar to you? Excuse me. Wood, plastic, whatever we have there. We've all seen that, right? On a window? They're not just solid glass. They got, most of them are, not all, but some are like that. Those horizontal pieces are called muttons. The vertical piece, mullions. I'd remember that. Mutton is a horizontal piece of the window, and you got the vertical piece, the mullion. Some more elements of construction. Shingles. Most of your shingles are made up of asphalt or fiberglass. It could be wood. A roof made of wood. It could be a buildup where they have tar. Tar and gravel. Flat roof. Nowadays they have metal roofs. We've all seen those. I do want to talk about the pitch of a roof though. It's measured by the number of inches rise per foot of horizontal distance. And I'm going to show you one. Or more than one maybe. Look up here. This comes up a lot. You'll hear people talk about the pitch of a roof. 212. 412, 612, 812, 1012. The higher that number, the steeper that roof gets. The 12 is by measured per foot. That's where you get the 12. What is the distance that you travel every foot? How much distance does it raise higher? For example, here's the roof. And we start right here. We start measuring 12 inches out. How high did this thing change in that 12 inches? 2. If we go another 12, 2. Another 12, 2. That's a 212. Now watch this. Pretty steep. Let's say that's a 812. Start here. We go 12 inches. How high did it raise? It raised 8 inches. Another 8. Another 8. It's an 812. The higher the number, the steeper the pitch. And why is that good to know and pass on to a buyer? Several reasons. Again, it's personal preference of what they want. But if that's a lifetime home, a long-term investment to keep, their choice. But an example of why a 812 roof versus a 212 roof would not economically be maybe a good investment. Not to say investment, but the cost.
Which one is cheaper?
The lesser there is number, the cheaper it's going to be. Because if you have a 212 or a 412 roof, Your roofers can get up there and walk on it and do it. Tear it off and fix it, put a new one on. You get an 812 roof, they can't get on there. It's going to take special equipment and safety equipment for them to get in there, take that roof off and put a new one on. A lot more cost. But that's a personal preference. Some people like that. But again, it's up to the homeowner, the buyer, what is he getting? And again, if he starts talking to you about a roof, you need to be able to understand or explain to them, I'm sorry, what a 212, 412 means. You need to be able to do that. Again, the pitch is measured by the number of inches rise per foot of horizontal distance. Insulation. We have insulation that goes in. It goes in by bats, blankets, or loose fill. I think you've all seen a house being built somewhere along the line where you can see where insulation is being put in. The thicker that insulation is, the better the heating and air conditioning is going to be. And obviously the more you put in, the more expensive it gets. Interior finishes pertaining to paint or whatever, or any specialties you want to add on the interior, that's a matter of taste and cost. That's between a buyer and a builder, what it is they want to do. And you'll hear HVAC, you'll hear that term a lot. HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. Down here, in what, I can't say all of North Carolina, but I can say down here, we have heat pumps and we have heating and air conditioning systems. Where you have electric air conditioning systems. Like an air conditioner you put in your window for a room and you plug it in. That's burning pure electricity and the air is conditioned. Boom, coming out ice cold. True? We've all felt that. A heat pump system doesn't work that way. A heat pump system is more energy efficient. Heat pump system actually will take the moisture out of your house, completely out, and get rid of it, and replace it with a cool, dry air. It's not a conditioned air that's running, blowing air across a condenser that looks like a freezer, blowing ice cold air at you. A lot of people that come from up north have a hard time with the heat pump down there, trying to understand why is it taking so long to cool my house. Well, once you get your house cooled, you set it to where you want it, leave it alone. It'll stay there, heating or cooling. You can't turn it on to cool on a heat pump. Turn it off when you go to work. And when you come home, it's 90 degrees in your house, but you want 70. It's going to take that heat pump a long time to get that thing down to 70 degrees. If they left it alone, probably only ran a few times during the day to maintain that. But there is a difference. Heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. North Carolina, Uniform Building Code. As I told you, that code changes or can change every year. When a home is completely built, it goes through an inspection process while it's being built. They have inspectors come out at different stages to inspect it, make sure everything's being built according to code. Once they've completed and they've done their final inspection, city or county will issue a certificate of occupancy. If you have a buyer who's going to buy new construction, the lender is going to want that certificate of occupancy. That's proof that the house has been built, done according to standards. Some of those building standards and HUD standards are different. You need to make sure when you talk to a builder, is he building HUD standard? Has he been approved to build HUD standard? A builder will supply to you a certificate, for example, from VA, that he's VA approved to build homes that meet that standard. Now, a contractor's license in North Carolina. If you as a homeowner want to do things to your home yourself, you can do that with permits and all that stuff and do it yourself. As long as the cost is under $30,000. Anything above $30,000 construction cost, you're going to have a licensed contractor. I remember that, $30,000.
It was in the chapter before. Isn't it like the same?
Okay. Now we have discussed chapter 16. After you get a chance to read chapter 16, there will be a quiz on chapter 16. You should have a good handle on what chapter 16 is all about. Any questions? Let's take a break.